Hello, good evening. My name is Malik Abbas Dabo. Welcome to PM Express. The opposition New Patriotic Party is supposed to be an alternative government. In fact, leaders of the party believe that the NPP is a government in waiting. But the party appears to be at war against itself. How can anybody reasonably expect a party so deeply divided to gain the trust and confidence of the Ghanaian people? Is the NPP clutching defeat from the jaws of victory? Tonight on PM Express, join me and my guest discuss these weighty matters in the opposition NPP. Stay tuned. You're welcome back. You can join this discussion by logging onto facebook.com/Joy News on TV, or send us a WhatsApp message to 0560-80000. That's how you can join this discussion. But with me in the studio is a senior lecturer at the Faculty of Law of the University of Ghana, Dr. Poku Edusei. Doc, you're welcome to PM Express.
Thank you very much.
And by the way, Dr. Edusei is, when I began my profession as a journalist, he was the first lawyer I had the distinct honor to interview. Today, I have another honor to host him. Doc, you're most welcome.
Thank you very much.
Is the NPP a victim of its own overemphasis on legal rules and regulations and laws and court cases?
Well, it's a party that is founded on rule of law. We believe in the ideals of free expression, democracy. But it doesn't mean that when you believe in those ideals, you can be practical as well. I believe he has practical ways of doing his things. And what is happening now is basically just a transition as part of the processes of the party.
It is being suggested that you set up elaborate rules, and now you have to practicalize things. You want to sidestep those rules. You have done that, and you have been caught by your own rules. For example, there are those who argue that the manner in which your party chairman, that's the NPP national chairman, Paul Afoko, was suspended was in violation of the party's constitution. You are a law lecturer, and you've been a law lecturer for years. Do you agree with those who argue that the process violated your party's constitution?
Okay, thank you very much. What I will indicate is this, that the past 2 weeks has spawned a considerable debate in the media about whether the processes that led to the suspension of the national chairman of the NPP, Mr. Afoko, was consistent with the constitution of the party. I am of the view that it is. The procedures were rightly followed. But looking at the procedures, you have to also consider the political dimensions of it. Otherwise, you will not get the full story. So, from the side of Mr. Afoko, they've gotten their spokespersons and lawyers to speak to the media. And I believe that they have presented a very unilateral story of one side. And therefore, it's important that the party also comes out to give its side of the story so that we have a complete picture and then forge ahead.
When I hosted Martin Pebu in this very studio, I pointed out to him Article 4A3C of your party's of the NPP's constitution, which states that the National Disciplinary Committee shall have jurisdiction in all matters affecting discipline at the national level, with respect to national executive officers and key members of the party. Now, he responded to me and said, this same article, Clause D of this same article says, in the case of national officers, any person, any member of the party who is aggrieved and wishes to bring a petition against any national officer should send that petition to the National Council of the NPP. You don't think there's merit in his argument?
Well, I don't think so. The reason being that here's the case that we have procedures that you need to follow. If you go to the NPP headquarters, you won't find National Council as a body which is seated in an office for you to present a process to. It means that you have to go through human beings. And it's the same human beings who then have to inform other persons that this is what has been brought. And I think that procedure was invoked.
Yeah, but if the the Constitution says send a petition there, and Alhaji Yeremia's petition was not sent there, it was sent directly to the disciplinary committee. That's a violation of the party's constitution.
You know, anytime you read a one-sided story, like how they've read Article 4 of the NPP's constitution, that will give you a wrong impression about what the import of the constitutional provision is. You have to look elsewhere and see some of the provisions and then read the whole document as a whole. You read the document as a whole. Once you don't do that, it means that you are misreading the constitution of the NPP, and that is not doing justice to it. Eventually, a petition has been submitted to a disciplinary body. They are seized with jurisdiction over the matter, and then they start hearing. If you go and raise those issues when it's supposed to act judicially, but it's not a court per se, and then they've assumed jurisdiction, all that you need to do is respond to the allegations.
But he raised a fundamental issue, i.e., when they appeared before the disciplinary committee, they raised a preliminary objection challenging the jurisdiction of the committee itself to hear the matter that was brought before it. The committee didn't deem it fit to rule on this matter. You are a lawyer, you are a law lecturer. Is it not settled law that if a preliminary objection is raised on a matter, you rule on it before you go into the matter? If you didn't rule on it and you were insisting that Mr. Foko should appear before the committee in person, then you were acting arbitrarily.
Not at all. As I said, that is one story. In this case, they are now going to make that assertion, or they are making that assertion, and the onus will be on them to establish that the body never responded to that kind of objection before continuing to hear the matter. From my source, I am informed reliably that the body told them that what we are dealing with here is not just merely you really raising technicalities and matters of what you think are procedural, but let's go to the substance of the case and handle that substance. So we want the chairman to come.
That was not communicated in writing.
Well,
if it were,
you know, if you raise objections and then it's overruled before you want it to be written down before you can say that it has been ruled upon? No.
Martin Kpebu insists that the committee didn't say anything about their objections.
I disagree.
And yet the committee insisted that their client should appear in person.
Very eminent individuals who are lawyers, very distinguished persons, professionals who are serving on that body. They are reasonable that if you raise an objection and they believe that that is one way by which you want to stall their process, they will dismiss it summarily.
You don't buy Mr. Foko's lawyer's argument that their preliminary objection was not ruled on.
I don't.
But let's look at the politics of the decision. As far as you are concerned, the decision is lawful.
It is, because of two issues. First is that it's an official thing that has been done by the party structures. An official acts until you are able to establish otherwise are deemed to be properly done or to have been properly done. I mean, the couch in the Latin maxim that omnia prosementua resi esse acta. So official acts are deemed to have been properly done. In that case, the onus will then turn on the one who is asserting that they were not properly done to establish, to the contrary. I believe that they followed all the processes, because if you are reading only one side of the constitution to talk about the committee which was not even properly constituted, because certain members should have been sworn in when by the chairman, and the chairman had not sworn them in. So that same chairman is going to take advantage of the loopholes, and then say that the committee itself doesn't even exist.
It's not properly constituted.
Yeah, I mean, in a sense, they were saying that this new committee never even existed, because we have not gotten the full complement of the people, including W. Boafo and the rest, to be sworn in. I mean, you are dealing with an entity registered in accordance with law. That body has officers. Because it cannot talk, it speaks through those officers. So if the officers have abused that body in a way by conducting themselves, by failing to act to constitute such an important body such as the disciplinary committee, and then you want to take advantage of that, that body in law is supposed to be insulated from that kind of abuse.
But they point out that from the outset, the system had been set to abuse Mr. Foko's rights. For example, the Council of Elders files a petition to the disciplinary committee. Two members of the Council of Elders, Amabuzia, Professor Makokui, are also members of the disciplinary committee. The same people you say are eminent fellows, and you do not think that they would not have ruled on this matter. They are the same fellows who sat on the Council of Elders and are sitting on the disciplinary committee and yet sent a petition that they were going to preside over, becoming judges in their own cause, which is basic law. Which is a matter which has been responded to adequately by the commentaries thus far. That the petition that they ruled on was not the petition that was submitted by a Council of Elders. A focus lawyers say they were not told that. You know, if in substance, what you saw as coming from the Council of Elders, right, was something that you were going to use technicalities to store. And then another person, a private person, who is a member of the party, has submitted in substance the same thing. What do you do? Are you going to say that until that one is also served on you, and then it has been drawn to your attention in the committee, that until you go and write that one to us also, when you are stalling, then we can proceed? No, I mean, the law looks at the substance. Does due process not require that at every stage you write to them, then they can respond to it, and then you can deal with the matter? The attempt to sidestep some of the rules was what gave rise to the situation that we have. You know, anytime an opportunity is given you for you to present your side of the story, and then there's credible evidence that you are actually reneging on that opportunity and actually not taking advantage of it, then a new option had to be adopted. They disagree with that. They said the first time Mr. Foucault was invited, he was unwell. They communicated that to the disciplinary committee. The second time, he was still unwell. Of course, Alhaji Yirmiya pointed out that same day, Mr. Foucault chaired a steering committee meeting in the afternoon. But the response to him was, it was entirely possible that Mr. Foucault was unwell in the morning, but he was well enough in the afternoon. The third time, they raised legitimate concerns about security. All of these are legitimate concerns. So if the committee thought that they were dilly-dallying, that would have been unfair. I think they were fair in the circumstance, because if you are before a body of your own party, and the stories are that you get exeat or cheats from a medical practitioner who is based in another side of the world in this country, in the sense that you are in the southern part of Ghana, and then you have to get a medical exeat from someone who is practicing somewhere in Tamale. They said he flew. I mean, he went by flight. That is not credible. I mean, when it continues consistently, we are in this country, we know how persons are able to abuse the system in the public service to produce exeat that they are unwell, and you can get a medical practitioner to give you that. So, I mean, everyone who can see through this cock and bull story will then start thinking, it means that he's preventing us from actually doing the work. He's suggesting a venue that is comfortable for the person. How can they be sure that when you take them to, let's say, La Palm, there will not be a bomb explosion there resulting in their death? You are not able to trust your own office. You see, this matter, as I've been indicating, is not only about law, it's also about politics. That is the context that they have lost the entire plot within. That they are not appreciating the political dimension of it. But anytime you are doing any work, especially because this is a political issue, if you forget about the context, you will be losing the plot. And that is what they are losing. But if members of the disciplinary committee, and I guess all of them are politicians, if they took that context into consideration, they first of all would not have even initiated the processes in the first place. You think so? I believe this is one of the best decisions ever taken by the leadership of the party for reasons that are quite obvious. We have a person who is leading the party for elections in 2016. The activities of that person are always being undermined publicly by another leader of the party. But at every point, we must have one boss. I mean, the overall boss is Nanado that we want to push to contest for the presidential position in 2016. So he's going for a tour in the Ashanti region. And then you issue a statement that he is supposed to be part of the launch of a very exotic card. Just a minute. That is one instance. Your brother, because of your actions and inactions, I mean, culminated in an event that resulted in the death of a regional chairman. That's a very vexed matter, Doc, because you know that you cannot hold someone else responsible for another person's actions. So why are we seeking, and this is basic law, and you know that better than I do. It's basic, but politically has several complexities. Let me explain it. In civil matters,
which, I mean, I'm not saying that Afoko issue is a civil issue, it's a criminal matter. In civil matters, definitely, you can impute the actions of someone and hold someone responsible. For instance, you work with Joy FM. Supposing you engage in an act in the course of your duties, official duties, your employer, who is the employer, Joy FM, multimedia, can be held liable.
Vicarious liability.
Exactly. But what we are talking now is a criminal one. And criminal consequences are normally not imputed, or they are not exported to afflict another person who didn't engage in them. But mind you, that is the same way I'm saying that they have lost the political plot. That plot is that you went to engage in a tour in the northern part of Ghana.
Upper East.
When you went there, because procedures were not followed, people who believe that they were not properly acknowledged.
That view itself has been contested.
And then that person came out publicly to condemn your activity. When for a few days, then there's an issue of an acid attack, but the person dies. But I'm talking about the political consequences. So,
but was Afoko himself not the victim here? Because he was the one who held the meeting, and that meeting was disrupted.
He has played a victim role since he was elected into office. Before he was even elected, he portrayed himself as a victim. And that is the kind of perception we need to actually do away with. That he is not a victim. Everything that has transpired with his processes before he became chairman and after he became a chairman has been taken through the normal processes of the party.
It is difficult to prove that Mr. Afoko has not been a victim. But you hold your thought. I want us to take a break. We are having a discussion on the issues with the opposition New Patriotic Party, the largest party, the largest opposition party in the country that sees itself as a government in waiting. Is it proving that? Can it win the election? Is it taking the steps that can lead it to electoral victory next year? Those are the matters we are discussing on PM Express. Stay tuned.
Those communist inferior tactics they are practicing, we tell them that it is a good riddance for them. We are not joking. We are very serious. You are not doing this communist inferior tactics. A lawyer for Afoko, now a lawyer for 3 people. Find out for you, even if rate of summons has been set. Those who are
You are welcome back. With me in the studio is senior lecturer at the Law Faculty, University of Ghana. We are discussing the NPP and matters arising. Though, you were making the point about politics and the law. And your point is, this is not just the law, this is about politics. But Mr. Afoko's rights must be asserted first before you can talk about politics. You cannot set aside the man's rights when he justifiably believes that his rights have been abused and that the processes were done in violation of the party's constitution. And then you start talking about political calculations.
Well, when you are balancing 2 competing interests, you look for which one should, at least at a point, supersede the other. We have a private person's interest in seeing to it that there's no peace in the party, and that of the overwhelming public interest.
Why are we putting that on him? Why are we putting
because of his actions and inactions.
Such as what?
I can recount a number of them. I started with the Tamale, Upper East incident that resulted in the death of a regional chairman. For that reason, in the whole of the Northern Belt,
he has not been fingered in any of those. He has not been fingered to have played any role at all.
Well,
in
he
the
has.
Bolga incident.
He has.
How?
Because he went there and then the man spoke against it. Allegedly attacked him and his group, and eventually the man has passed on. What his involvement was that when the story even came out, he came out to say that his brother was even asleep. But there is now credible evidence that the acid that was poured on the late Mahama has been found.
That is yet to be determined by a court of law.
Exactly, but the evidence won't lie. That is scientific. Science is, I would say, 99% solid.
By simply a claim of the, at this point, it's a claim of the prosecution.
Definitely. Once it's presented, if it's admitted, then the other parts of the evidence will come in. But what I'm saying is that these do not augur well for us politically. Because when the man cannot even go up north, to go and campaign freely.
Why do you think he can't do that?
Well, I mean, because of these happenings, people are aggrieved, people are peeved, and for that reason, you can't just go and campaign freely. His dad is on the ground, has passed on, and I'm telling you, he goes there, he goes under security protection because of fear of possible attack, because people are very angry. That was what happened to the original chairman.
So you believe that all of these make him a liability in the party?
I mean, the leadership of the party believes so. They believe so, and I'm telling you, the NPP has gotten leaders who can see through things. They can see through things. They are well experienced, and those persons met and said, we have realized that the background negotiations are not working. For that reason, let's confront this issue head on.
So you are suggesting that there were background negotiations?
Exactly so. I mean, the narratives have been put out there. You heard Mr. C.K. Tadem. You heard the other petitioners who spoke. So these are very eminent individuals. They've held ministerial positions in the past. They are leaders of the party. And from the accounts, they have met at least 18 times. Some of the meetings ended abruptly to expressions of anger and stuff like that. So background negotiations couldn't work. And there's a saying that if persuasion fails, force is the ultimate answer. So
is Mr. Afoko being removed because he's perceived as having become a liability, or it is because he has engaged in conducts that are infractions of the party's constitution?
Conducts that are infractions, in nature, also basically.
But you have given me just one, which itself.
But we need only one
to him.
We need only one. I'm also going to talk about situations whereby the presidential candidate of the NPP is in the voter region canvassing for votes, and then you release a press statement through your spokesperson that MPs are not even paying their dues. Basically,
but
undermining.
If that's fact,
no, that is why I'm saying that he has lost the political plot. You have to study the times and know how to deal with situations. The national chairman of a party has to be strategic. You know how to reach out to these MPs. What accounted for they not contributing to the party, even if that's true, so that you find ways for that contribution to come.
It's because people were not happy with his election, because he was not the flag bearer's favorite, and
no,
so there were
attempts that is not
to
true.
Undermine his regime.
That is not true. I believe if you sit down with Nanado, he's an individual who is very level-headed. He's very experienced. He's not someone who will say that he supported this person, and then eventually when you are elected, he can't work with you. The man will call you at every point and sit down with you, even if you disagree with him. I believe that he has made all those efforts. Other leaders have also made the same efforts. And those narratives came out. And for that reason, when they realized that persuasion couldn't prevail, force became the ultimate answer.
Now Afoko is going to appeal this decision. The Constitution says he should appeal to the National Council. We are certain that he will do that. Are you not concerned that National Council may overturn this decision, seeing that his lawyers argue the decision was wrong ab initio?
We trust the judgment of the National Council. The argument of the lawyers have always been that the man is even still in office. If you are in office, why they need to appeal to the National Council? That is a bigger body of our party's elders. So they will come and then meet over whatever petition he puts before them. That's how the appeal is going to be. But in the meanwhile, he has sidestepped that through some 3 individuals who have gone to the mainstream court. And
you are talking about Chunibu Okudia, Emmanuel Sivin Owusu, and Joseph Opong,
exactly,
who have gone to court.
But
they are ordinary members of the party.
They are represented by lawyers for Chairman Afoko.
Yes, but you are a lawyer. You can have 3, 4, 10 clients.
Well, to pursue a common cause,
the clients have to be connected.
To pursue a common cause, then it means that your interests are collective in nature and similarly situated.
It may well be the case that they are not related at all. Of course, they have a common interest, but they are not related at all. We can't prove that.
In any case, I have even serious, reservations about the case. In the sense that when someone has been disciplined based on whether a human rights related matter or an employment situation, those are matters that you take to the High Court, which they have done. But from the authorities, the jurisprudence indicates that you need to have a personal interest. It's different from a situation whereby you are going to the Supreme Court to seek for an interpretation of the Constitution. That case, you don't need to have any personal interest. So the person came from Kumasi, which is the Amokutufuo case, Tufuo and Attorney General, one of the famous cases we've been talking about in this country. And then he was able to justify why the Chief Justice then, Justice Apalu, should not be removed. Where is your interest? My interest lies with the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana. I'm a citizen of Ghana.
These people's interests lie in the Constitution of the NPP.
You see, when you talk,
and they are members of the NPP.
You see, when you talk about the laws of Ghana, one thing they don't get, they should go and read the case of the GFA against one of the guys. I think it's called Roxen. It's a case done by Teddy Osore and co. The Constitution of the NPP is not part of the laws of Ghana. You see, but the laws of Ghana more or less superintends over the Constitution of the NPP. So we say that the Constitution of the NPP is subject to the laws of Ghana. It doesn't mean that when you are going to seek an interpretation of the NPP's Constitution, you can go to the Supreme Court.
That's why they went to the High Court.
Yes, they went to the High Court, and based on Abel Adusei decisions, and I mean this morning their lawyer, I mentioned the case of Sylvia and Tete, established that for matters that are even employment related, human rights related, you need to have personal interest in the matter. Otherwise, you lack capacity to maintain the action.
So now you are arguing they don't have logos
exactly.
in this matter.
Exactly so.
But their lawyers went through all the cases. We spoke to Martin here. He came here with a stack of papers, so they know what they are doing.
Well, eventually it will be pronounced upon by court. The other bit that will also come in is that if you are a genuine member of the party and then you intend to vindicate the right of somebody, maybe because you are a member of the party, there is also a procedure that that person who had been disciplined has to appeal to a different body of the same body that you are a member
Article
of.
3D of the NPP's
exactly. So if you don't exhaust that procedure, as if you enter and co, unless you are able to establish that that internal body is so useless and flawed that you cannot make use of it, in that case, then you can resort to the normal court. Otherwise, that internal exhaustion, the doctrine of exhaustion of the internal remedies will be used against you.
But if they can prove, and they have argued severally, that when they appeared before the disciplinary committee, they were not given fair hearing, i.e., they raised objections that were not ruled on, they raised issues about security and nobody said anything to them before they knew it, a ruling had been given, a recommendation had been made to the National Executive Committee, he was not even told that this had happened. All of these indicate that from day one, the institutions have been unfair. The party's organs have been unfair to him. To that extent, he can go to court.
You see, that's why we have hierarchy of institutions under the NPP's constitution. So you are displeased with a decision by an institution of the party. There's a higher body which comprises a larger group of persons, and persons that you can believe in, unless he's going to tell us that before that body is even constituted, he's distrusting the National Council. Otherwise, that argument will not arise at all. In that case, the burden will also be on them to establish what is wrong with the National Council, which has not even met to consider what he considers to be unjust treatments in the party.
Now, they have even gone ahead to cite 6 members of the party: FF Anto, John Buedu, National Organizer, Youth Organizer, Samuel Wuku, a couple of others. They've cited these people for contempt because yesterday, in spite of this case that had been filed, and there's argument whether the mere filing of the application serves as an injunction, yet there was a steering committee meeting. The General Secretary of the party, Kwabena Japan, recused himself because he had been served. These 6 people have been cited for contempt. That should worry the party.
Well, from what we have seen this evening, at 2:50 p.m. today, 6 persons of our party, the leaders of the party, have been cited in an application for contempt. All that we say is, at this point, it's just an application which has been filed. The lawyers who filed it will have to go and serve it on those individuals, and then the process will be taken from there. But my view of the law is this, that anytime there is a program in motion, and then you rush to court to file a process, which is based on your unilateral story, and then you serve that process on a meeting which is ongoing, it doesn't operate as an injunction.
Justice Tokonu, in one of her rulings in the judicial scandal issues, insisted that once the process has been served, it should operate as an injunction. You know,
it's different from a situation whereby you are serving the process before the meeting starts. That's different. But the meeting starts at 9:30, 10 a.m. and then from the checks, the time of service was 11. So it was a meeting which was ongoing. And we are credibly informed that this was a collusive action. an action whereby only one person will be the one who has been served, even though that person has not been listed as one of the respondents. And then he comes holding a paper from court that I've been served with this. For that reason, I've gotten advice from my lawyers. I don't want to be part of the meeting anymore. That application itself wouldn't operate as a stay of the meeting, wouldn't operate to injunct them in any way, because if you believed in the credibility of your story, you ask for ex parte injunction. In that case, the other side will not be there. You'll be there by 10 a.m., 11 a.m. You'll be served it on you. That will be an injunction proper. Once you see it, you are supposed to terminate everything that you are doing, and not when you think that you have resorted to the court. For that reason, you can be allowed to go, on your own, without any objection
General
at all.
Secretary was there, and he recused himself from the meeting on account of having been served this process, which you do not think was credible, but he recused himself.
This afternoon I heard the account of how the process was served on another network. It was served on a gentleman who works with the General Secretary, who should not have even been the case, because he's not an officer of the party, and then given to him in the house in the evening, and then he presents it the following day and hands it over to the General Secretary. So I believe the proof of service will indicate who actually received the court process, and then that will be a subject
Does that matter?
It does.
How?
It does, because when a process is filed against a person, the originating process, the process that you use to start the action, the procedure principally is that you effect personal service. In the case of an NPP, you are supposed to serve it on any of the officers of the party. That will be enough service on the party. That's the more reason why, as soon as the officer receives a process on behalf of the party, he has to refer it to
didn't your
a bigger body and then act on it.
Didn't the General Secretary know this? If he knew this, why did he carry that to the party head office and recuse himself, use that as a basis to recuse himself from the meeting?
Well, I don't know. I don't speak for him. I don't know what actually influenced his decision, that he was the only one who had been served, and for that reason, he was just going and inform the other people that he is not going to take part because he has sought legal advice. But the other people also are lawyers and people who have sought legal advice, and their advice is that when a process of this nature is served on you in the course of the meeting, that doesn't operate as stay. If the person wanted to actually stop it completely, the person should have sought for an injunction ex parte.
Is Mr. Foko being picked on because he's a Northerner?
Not at all. I think because he has fallen foul of the rules of the party, and then the disciplinary processes were invoked to discipline him.
That's difficult to prove because he's had these problems with Kwabena Japan. Why were the processes invoked against him and not Kwabena Japan? In fact, Kwabena Japan insisted yesterday that as far as he is concerned, Afoko is still the chairman.
Well, I don't think Kwabena Japan is the one who expressly stated that. I heard from his spokesperson or assistant, OPK, who said that they still believe that Afoko is the chairman. That is the other side of it, which I believe the party needs to nip in the bud, because the chairman has been suspended indefinitely. If he keeps on issuing statements to congratulate Hassan Ouattara that he has won election, when the election at that time had not even been declared officially in Ivory Coast, but in his haste to please whoever he wants to please, then
he needed to demonstrate that he's still in charge.
And that is not the only thing. A more serious one occurred yesterday in the Supreme Court of Ghana. What happened in the Supreme Court of Ghana was that there is a case involving Menchia North constituency and then some of his party members, which matter has gone back to the Supreme Court. It had gone there before. Initially, we used to be Kumewu, Drabi, and Menchia North, which eventually went to the Supreme Court. I argued that case, and then we won. Now, that aspect from Menchia North has gone back to the Supreme Court. The case was filed somewhere early September. This is a very serious matter because the person is now professing that he's still the chairman of the party and passing himself off as chairman when he's not. So the case was called yesterday. The party had been served all this while. No action was taken by the party. And then 2 days ago, which is 26th of October, affidavit which has been signed by Mr. Afoko, was filed in the Supreme Court on behalf of the NPP. And when the case was called, and then the the judges scrutinized the documents. One judge pointed it out to the lawyer who has come in to stand in from Kumasi for NPP. That
Justice Apau.
That, hey, this is what I've seen. It was filed here on 26. On 26, was Chairman Foko still chairman of the NPP, or you had been suspended? That was one of the bases by which that case was adjourned in the Supreme Court.
But Justice Apau's opinion does not necessarily mean that Foko is no longer the chairman.
Come on. It means that a judge who is exercising a judicial function, is saying that I've heard this. So go and do your background check before you come again. Otherwise, you will be complicating this matter. In a sense that institutions are now acknowledging that he cannot act for and on behalf of the party. Now, regional executives are coming in to say that they can no longer recognize him.
Are they not being engineered? Because in the aftermath of the death of Adams Muhammad, the Upper East Regional Chairman of the party, we saw all of these. We saw the regional chairman, regional caucuses mobilized. We were told that that was unconstitutional. The party general secretary was pretty upset, and he said that this was unconstitutional. It was unlawful. It has no basis in the party's constitution. That's exactly what they are doing.
Now, what is happening is that the processes have been completed, and they are basically supporting whatever has gone on to say that at the grassroots, we embrace it. So when it's coming from regional chairman, it means that it's trickling down to the constituency chairman as well. That they embrace the decision of the national executive. Because NEC, apart from the national council, in the hierarchy of things, we have the Congress, we have the national council, and NEC. NEC, for purpose of meeting, is the highest body that you can come across after the steering committee. So once they come out with that decision, it means that all of us have to support it, because they will not decide in a manner that is perilous to the interests of the NPP.
What will happen if it turns out that the regions are divided? Say 5 regions support, 5 regions do not, or 4 regions support, 6 regions do not. But hold your breath. Let's take a break. When we come back, we will take further discussions on this matter. Stay tuned.
At times, some of these distractions, unnecessary distractions, are important. They must happen for us to move forward. So maybe the party is looking at it from that angle. This is a problem if we don't address now. For all you know, we may end up addressing it some 2 or 3 months to the elections, and it will still be very visible. It will still be very clear in the minds of people that we are not ready for prime time. So maybe the party is saying that let's address it, let's give ourselves some 8 to 10 months and we can do a proper campaigning. But I think, as I've indicated, I think the NPP is certainly on top of this. There are some disagreements, misunderstandings here and there, but they should allow the party structures to work. If Mr. Foko is going to appeal through the internal structures of the party, they should make sure that the process is done transparently, free and fair. They should give him proper hearing. If he's not still happy with the decision of the internal structures of the party and he wants to go to the court, even the party members, the party leadership should encourage him to do that. For all you know, within the internal structures of the party, they will sit down and they may end up settling their differences, and they will say, oh, Mr. Foko, come back and occupy your position. But as it stands now, things don't look good. But my belief is that because of the rule of law, let's allow the systems to work. Some are saying that the party has engaged in illegality and unconstitutional action. They should test the law within the party. If the internal structures believe that it should be reinstated, I think that should be able to.
You're welcome back. These are some of your comments. Comment sent us via WhatsApp. Jacob says, I don't think NPP is ready to win elections come 2016. Let's speak the fact. Let's take another comment. We thank you for this program. It's very enlightening and educated. Oh, Chairman Afoko, I told you, but you didn't listen. There's a message that is targeted at Doc's arguments. This one. It says, I think the law lecturer is endorsing an illegality perpetrated on Mr. Afoko. Doctor is not being fair to Mr. Afoko at all. Doc, there's somebody who thinks you are not being fair. This one says, okay, this is Jacob's one. He says he doesn't think NPP is ready to win an election at all. But those are some of your viewer comments. Doc, this viewer believes that you are endorsing an illegality.
Not at all. I mean, I'm a person of principles. I'm a person who believes in the law. And I'm basically speaking to the other side, which has been squelched all this while because of the narratives of one dominant side that they think that someone has been treated unfairly.
If there's a dominant side, that dominant side is the side that is suspending Mr. Foku.
No, in the media interaction, the party, because it cannot speak, and a lot of officers who try to be independent by presenting what has ever, come up at the NEC meetings and the rest. I'm talking of the lawyers of Mr. Foku and then the spokespersons who are all over on the airwaves, presenting the side of the story as if that they were not given any opportunity at all when it came to the hearings at the disciplinary committee and also when it came to the meeting at the National Executive Committee.
But are these public utterances not the problem? Because Andrew Zawuni is out there, he's talking. We have Frank Ejekum, the secretary to former President John Kufuor. He's also out there talking. In fact, Frank Ejekum says that the NPP has pressed a defeat button, to paraphrase what he said.
Well, I disagree with him. I think it's a hard decision that the party had to take. And once they've taken it, at some point, when you run through the mail, will come out a better, group of persons as a political party, and then forge ahead.
But this decision actually dents the image of the NPP. Because first of all, before the elections, it was said variously that Nana Addo didn't like Afoko, he didn't like Kwabena Agyapong, he has said that he would not be able to work with them. Of course, he denied that on several platforms. But these happenings lend credence to those suggestions that from day one, there was an agenda in place to kick these two out because they will not play ball.
You know, in our political discourse, what have we not heard about Nana Addo? Those of us in the legal community value him, highly because of what he has achieved for the legal community. But in political circles, what have not been said against him? So that's one side of it. And think about it. These narratives, we have some of our party members who are supporting Afoko to say that the decision wasn't right and so on. Those are their views. But predominantly, you also have members of the NDC who are saying that we should retain him as our national chairman. Why are they so keen about him as being our national chairman instead of dealing with their own internal issues as well?
Well, they don't have any internal issues. It is the NPP that has internal issues.
They do. When you are in power, right, because of access to the purse, you are able to whip people in line easily. That is what is happening. I'm telling you, if they were in opposition, that gentleman who
but they were in opposition before. We saw them in opposition in 2008.
That gentleman who came, from Moyarefa area to contest the president would have contested the president. But at some point, they whipped him in line, and whatever was settled at the background, it was settled. That is politics.
That is what the NPP lacks, because the NDC is practical, the NPP is dogmatic.
We are practical as well. And let me explain it. We are practical as well in that when you are given every opportunity to have a matter resolved at the background. You've heard narratives of how the former chairman bangs his hand on the table and meeting is over.
That's just one-sided. That's a one-sided view.
No, with elders as CK Tedem and the rest telling you that those incidences happen. You cannot dispute them, that they happen. They won't just come and concoct such a story.
But CK Tedem, who, he is a former member of Council of State. Yeah. He signed the earlier statement, the earlier petition, asking for a focused suspension.
Yeah, because at that point, it had reached a melt point. Nothing could be done again, and for that reason, that was the only option available for them to do. And then eventually, the party has seen the need to go through the process and give him an opportunity to be heard. If you are even serving the court process from outside, in Ghana, and then you don't respond to it, there are timelines, for that issue to be dealt with. It's a party that needs to contest general elections. For that reason, if you adopt strategies of showing venues where you want hearing to be done, if you are not going to your office, and those issues you don't see them as improper, and all those issues, then the party will have to act. Because if they don't act early, and you get to 2016, it will continue to be an albatross on their neck.
But is the party entitled to resort to violence, like what happened to Kwabena Japan yesterday? Kwabena Japan's car was stoned.
I mean, that has been condemned by the party. It's a condemnable act, and the party is doing its own investigation.
But is it not strange?
But let me add. I mean, this is also a matter that borders on criminality. So if you have any evidence that it was this person who did it, please volunteer that information.
Party has been arrested.
Well, that is one of such persons who have been arrested. I believe the police will do their investigations, and then the law will take its normal course.
Doc, is it not strange that the same NPP party headquarters, when they held the meeting to suspend Afoko, and some group of macho men, as they were described from Kasua and were allegedly mobilized by Mr. Afoko, came there, they were repelled. They came there armed, but they were repelled. These same people were there, and yet Kwabena Japan was attacked, and nothing happened.
Well, he wasn't attacked, but his car was attacked.
He was heckled.
What happened basically was that persons got riled in the sense that they believed the process that he presented to the committee, he was the one who was more or less fueling it. So that was, I mean, that's the way they interpreted it. It would have been, I mean, it might have been erroneous, but they wrongly interpreted it that way and then acted. We are looking for the persons. I wasn't even there at the meeting. So those persons, once they are found out, they will be dealt with by the party, because when you are even dealt with by the under the national laws of Ghana, you can be dealt with internally by the party as well.
A little while ago, we listened to the Deputy General Secretary of the NPP, Nana Obrigboahen, who made very serious allegations against unnamed members of the party. And his claim is they are in bed with government. You are a lawyer, and the legal maximum is, where is the evidence? Where is the evidence?
He was speaking as a politician, and he's a seasoned politician. So if
he's a lawyer himself.
He's a lawyer himself, a very well-established lawyer, if you go to Bunahafo. So if he says that we have evidence that persons in leadership in the party are in cahoot with the government in power, I mean, that's his opinion. I believe that he wouldn't speak without any basis at all. You don't
have evidence. Where is the evidence? When the NDC had a similar allegation against Josiah Aye, who was General Secretary of the NDC, they produced evidence and proceeded to suspend him on the basis of that evidence. If Nana Obrigboahen doesn't have any such evidence, he has no basis at all putting a blanket statement out there and undermining people. In fact, he hasn't named anyone.
Well, he hasn't named anyone. And I believe that before he came out to say that, he would have been well informed that this was what is happening.
When we challenged the Northern Regional Chairman of the NPP, Bore Nabo, on this allegation, what he pointed out to was, oh, well, when we went to Talensi to campaign, the party chairman was at the Flagstaff House drinking tea. Come on.
That is the evidence or the side of Bugri Nabu. I'm telling you, Nana Obrigboahen is a different kind of individual, and he will present more credible evidence if at the point he feels that that evidence should come out. But for now, it's not about you putting out names there and then fighting anybody, because in as much as we are trying to save the party, we also I want to make sure that the unity of the party is also maintained.
I have watched a video on Facebook in which former President Kufuor, then President Kufuor, in 2007, told party members, constituency executive, I think somewhere in the Upper East region, that if the party went to the polls to elect a flag bearer, it should elect a flag bearer that the party could sleep on, not one that will bring chaos and violence and disagreements in the party. The party has consistently elected Nana Akufo-Addo. These happenings, do they not prove former President Kufuor right, that Nana Akufo-Addo is simply unable to lead a party that is peaceful and organized?
Not at all. And the answer is obvious, in that if you look at our party, Nana Addo was presented in 2008 for the general elections. There was peace in the party. Nana Addo was presented in 2012 for the general elections. There was peace in the party. So it means that it was the change of some of the national leadership that actually has generated the chaos. So consistently for the man's history, he has exhibited beyond doubt that he's a peace-loving individual, that he's someone who respects rule of law, is someone who respects the law.
That's not quite factual.
So it's now that these issues have come up. No, this issue didn't come up in 2012.
No, in 2008, a key member of the party, Alan Chimantin, resigned. And the reason he cited for his resignation was his supporters were being hounded by Nanado's supporters across the country. And Nanado said nothing.
No, I mean, I don't think that was, I mean, with any basis. He might have resigned based on how he perceived things at that time.
He's a respected member of the NPP.
Oh yeah, I respect him a lot. I mean, that was how he interpreted it. But eventually he came back.
And he actually conceded to prevent the second round to help Nanado to become flag bearer.
But here is the case that the man is with Nanado and they are campaigning together. What is preventing those who believe that they are apostles of that man from also coming on board? That is where their problem is.
We have to take a break at this point. We are talking NPP politics. When we come back, I will ask Doctor, is the NPP positioned to win the next elections? Or it is simply going to snatch victory from the jaws, defeat from the jaws of victory? Now, watching PM Express, stay tuned. We will be back. Yeah, welcome back. These are some of your comments on the topic that we are discussing. This person has no name. He says, please, one should never think that what is going on in the NPP will ruin the party. The party must tidy up. This person, let me see what this person says. He says, this is the best decision so far by the leadership of the party. If Kobna Japan is not happy, he will follow soon. This one too, there's no name. Let me take a last one. It's a shame, and I'm disheartened. The kind of Mr. Foko's behavior clearly shows his intentions of Agenda 2020. So he should step aside and give peace a chance to focus on 2016. Andy from Techiman. You are watching PM Express. We are talking NPP politics. With me is Dr. Poku Edusei, Senior Lecturer, University of Ghana, Faculty of Law. Doc, the NPP has received battering. When you go into an election, you need your integrity to stay intact. Nanado is going into 2016 badly bruised because he's been unable to maintain discipline, peace, and harmony in his own party.
Well, I don't think the man has been bruised in any way because he has been attacked from day one for years. And now those attacks do not stick because Ghanaians can see through the lies. What is now left is that our opponents are fueling through some of our leaders so that there is confusion. But at the end of the day, there will be sanity in the party. The party will move forward and then execute its agenda in 2016.
This allegation that some of your leaders are in bed with government is not substantiated by anything. There's no basis at all.
Well, you know, politics is not always the case that you can go and say that what has happened, it was this person who gave this to this person before it got to this point. No. I mean, that's why it's politics. So at a point, if there's a need for that evidence to be brought out there, it will be brought out there.
Nanado hasn't demonstrated leadership, has he?
He is a true leader.
How?
In the sense that here's the case that the man led a group of persons in 2008. He led the party in 2012.
He's a serial loser. That's
no,
who he is.
I mean, elections in Ghana. President Mills, how many times did he contest?
But the NPP,
several times.
The NPP said he was serial loser.
No NPP person has said that. I mean, I don't believe there is any true NPP person who will say that because Ghanaians are tough to convince. And now that we are in opposition, we have to convince them that leadership matters. Look at Ivory Coast. A while ago, it was in ashes. But in the span of 3-4 years, the country has been transformed. It means that leadership matters. How old is Al-Hassan Ouattara? He's now in his mid-70s. He's older than Nanado.
That's your argument.
But people want to actually use what I call the argumentum ad hominem attacks, so that they can use it to further their political ambitions. That is not proper. The man is an honorable person. You painted him at some point as someone who was not even willing to accept defeat. But look at what happened when the Supreme Court gave his judgment in 2013.
He accepted defeat. He had problems with the verdict, but he refused to apply to repeal it. Doc, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for honoring us on PM Express. That's all time will allow us on the show today. We have been honored to have Senior Lecturer, University of Ghana Faculty of Law, Dr. Poku Edusei, to bring light to the discussion. This show was produced by the pretty Jennifer Jane Asante and directed by Mark Bright. My name is Malik Abbas Dabu. Good night.